Hey, welcome everybody back to the Keeping It 100 podcast presented by Legendary Legacies. We are excited to be back, continuing this season 2 conversations with people and those that are connected to the participants that we're working with. And just to reset that, those are brothers that are returning from incarceration, have a history or current substance use disorder, or maybe dealing with some gang involvement and things like that. Really just trying to say a picture of what these individuals are going through and paint a broader picture of like what their life is like. Like a lot of times we know they just get thought of as this one piece or this incident, the worst thing they ever did. And so this season we're really just talking with different people about all kind of aspects of being a part of this. And so we're excited today to have a friend, a partner, and somebody who we can't wait to hear his insight. By far the tallest guy that we ever had on the podcast, Sheriff Lew Evangelidis. So we want to welcome him into the podcast. Welcome, Lew.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And so we're going to kick it off like we always do before we get into the dialogue and the conversation, is how are you living legendary this week? And so just to remind our listeners, living legendary is about what are you doing or what have you done for yourself that is leaving a legacy, something that you're doing this week or today that yourself tomorrow will be proud about, right? That you could be happy about. And so for me this week was having a conversation with my son about bullying. There was a situation that happened at school and somebody had pushed him, pulled his hair, and he had responded in a way that was violent. And he was talking about how he felt he needed to do that. But really just sitting down and talking through him about how that feels and what other alternatives there are to be able to respond to those types of situations. And, you know, he kept coming back with his different things about, well, you don't understand, you know, people. And I'm, okay, I hear you, man. But really just taking that time to talk to him to kind of live a different perspective for him. So for me, that's how I was living legendary. So I'll throw it to my man Gabe to the left. How you living legendary this week, Gabe?
Man, to be honest, 100%, man, I think this moment right now is how we live in legendary, how I'm living legendary, right? So if you take a look at this table, the dynamics on this table is crazy right now, right? So we got the sheriff here. We got me, formerly incarcerated. Then we got John Graham, a.k.a. John Wick, in the building, you know, a former correctional officer at the place where we all was at once. So I think this conversation right now is definitely legendary.
Word. I feel that. Right. Johnny Wick. Well, Johnny Wick, talk to him, man.
Yeah. That's the name he gave me. Yeah.
John Wick, let's go.
But this, me being legendary, is just how I move and how I carry myself, you know, trying to give that to the participants that we work with and with my family, my kids, my grandson. So I'm thinking legendary all the time. Was what I'm giving back to them. What am I showing them?
Word. Respect that. Sheriff Lew, we're going to give it to you. How are you living legendary this week?
Gabe's words I really appreciate those words. It's really special to be here with all of you today doing this show. But I guess if you ask me how I'm living legendary right now, probably my biggest challenge is my mother's health is not well. We've had to move her from home to a assisted living facility. And it's just, I guess patience is my challenge, you know. You realize that people don't want to get old. It's not their fault. Yeah. And you got to show patience as a child for a parent that's struggling with not only health issues, but mental health issues. And it's a real challenge, but, you know, we're working on it every day and being a good son and being there for my mother. So that's where I'm at right now.
Hey, Chef Lew, I appreciate you, man, even willing to go there and share that depth. We definitely will be praying for you, your family, and your mom and everybody as you're going through this. We know how that can be difficult. I think all of us can resonate and can relate. We've had similar experiences and with loved ones going through challenging times. So we'll definitely keep you in prayer around those things. So hard transition to just be like, we're excited to have you here after that. But I'm going to try to do my best with that, man. But we really are excited to have you come in here, Sheriff Lew, and talk about this very, very critical and crucial demographic that we're all get the privilege to touch in some way, and those folks that get caught up in the criminal justice system for whatever reason, and then trying to assist them in getting back on the right track. So we're really excited to have you in here and have this conversation. And so I think one of the things we first wanted to do for most of our listeners is like what does the sheriff's office do? I mean, when I first think of the sheriff's office, what comes to mind is like the Wild West, right? And I think like the dude on his horse, like riding in and that kind of thing. And so like for our listeners, like what is the sheriff's office? What does it do? Who are y'all?
Yeah, well, first of all, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of explain it. It's funny. I'll tell you one thing. You run for Worcester County Sheriff. 11 years ago, I'm out there running, and kind of excited initially. We'll maybe get a chance to talk about the people's first reaction, which wasn't too positive. There wasn't let's say, not a lot of long-standing love for the Worcester County Sheriff's Department, and a lot of my people were kind of like, man, really, don't you want to do something else? Like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, well, there's some really special sheriffs around this country doing special things. I want to be one of those people, But it's a little disheartening when you run for sheriff and you're out there and you got 1 million people to meet, and the first questions people had was, hi, I'm Lew Evangelidis. I'm running for Worcester County Sheriff. And they'd be like, we have a sheriff?
Oh, wow.
And then, then it get worse. Then the second one was, why do we have a sheriff? So that was kind of the question I got. Those are good questions, by the way.
For sure.
So just in a perspective to tell you, there are sheriffs all over this country, and they all do different things. And there are sheriffs in Massachusetts. There's 14 of us. We all do different things. So I can really kind of only answer for myself on this because, many counties in the South, for example, have their county sheriff. They do the law enforcement, the patrols, the arrests, all those. Massachusetts, we're more of the care, custody, and control people, but we've really specialized over the last 20, 30 years, particularly on, I think it's really all about rehabilitation and reentry and helping people. So sure, there's some people that need to be taken off the street to protect our public, and many of those will go to state prison. But there's also and I think the majority who come into our care, and they're going back to our community. So our goal is, with their time when they are incarcerated, to work with them and provide them opportunities to meet us halfway, to rehabilitate themselves, to get out and be productive citizens. And I have to comment on Johnny Graham here because you took my guy here, by the way. Johnny and John, I say this with all love. You sat in my office one day and we talked about him joining my department as a promotion to captain, and we were so thrilled. And he did what I think was the very thoughtful thing. He made a decision. Either I'm at the crossroads, and I'm either going to stick it out the sheriff for the rest of my career, or he established with his hard work a opportunity to take a pension, retirement, and move in a different direction. And he made this decision. And I applaud it, but I want you to know we miss this man very much, and we were very excited. But I don't ever want to hold anybody back. They got to get to where they want to get to. And Johnny, I'm so blessed to be sitting here with you, and I'm so happy you're doing something positive with Ron here.
I appreciate it.
John, we had talked a little bit about that transition, and what was it for you that was like, this is the direction I want to go, where a lot of folks would say no bad either way, but like I'm gonna rock it all the way out to the full pension, right? But for you were like, I'm thinking a different direction. And so what was it for you that kind of moved you that way?
Well, I had always thought that when I hit my 20, I would do something different. Halfway through my career.
So what's that mean, hit your 20, for our listeners? Like they may not understand. No problem.
Being able to retire 50% of your pay, a pension
Gotcha.
for 20 years, and be able to do something different in your life, This environment, law enforcement, is, very stressful and everything, and I think we talked about the life expectancy for correction officers, like 58 years old.
Wow.
I'm 50 years, 50, I'll be 51 next Friday,
Sure.
by the way, my birthday. But
Next Friday?
My kids next Friday.
Oh, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm getting old, man.
Shoot.
But my kids are.
Got to get you a brand muffin. You can't get cake at that age. You got.
My kids are older. I got a 9-year-old grandson. I'm looking toward, doing more things in life, enjoying life.
Yeah.
So that's where I was, and I think around November I was going to be, put in that position, but. Actually, that May before, when I hit 20, my mind was kind of looking forward to what my next chapter in life was going to be.
Yeah.
So some things didn't come through around those times, and then something came up, and that was the time. So I didn't want to take it, and like you said, I knew the crossroads where they were, and I decided to do that, and I've always been one. I went back to school halfway through, like 10, 13 years in. I got my associate's and my bachelor's degree. 2013. I think at that point I had 13 years in. So I'm not afraid to work. I want to do different things. I was more let me tell you something, correction officer is one of the toughest jobs in the world.
For real.
But I knew I was more than that title. And that
You
was
had
my
different,
identity. So
Yeah.
there was nothing on you or what was going on. It was just where I was in
Yeah.
life. So
I think one of the other things, John, and then I want to pull Gabe into the dialogue real quick. So for our listeners, we're here with Sheriff Lew Evangelidis with us, just kind of having a conversation about, reentry and incarceration. And we have John Graham, who's the CO, and then Gabe, who spent some time and I'm just kind of facilitating. So, John, I know one of the other things when we first met that, man, I think would be really key for the listeners to hear is you talked about in your time how, this is something that we're all working on, but like the recidivism, the repeat offenders, and like I saw the same guy, and for you, kind of how that was breaking your heart, bro.
Yeah, so this is kind of why I got into this, because I know guys know me by my first name. Why? Because when I started in 2000 down the mods as a temporary officer, they were there. And over 20 years, they've been coming in there, whether they're out a year or out 3 years or out 6 months. We've kind of grown together in a sense. It's kind of sad to say some guys look at it as a badge of honor, which it's not, because they know me for 20 years off and on. So I wanted to stop that cycle and help that out, especially with the young Black and Latino men.
Now, Gabe, you were incarcerated more than one time, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of pulling you into this conversation around recidivism, like how would you comment? What can you add to the conversation? Man, you went back. One time you was there, it's like, man, why am I going back? Like, just kind of from that perspective, what might you add to the conversation?
When I went back, I was real sad. I say that. I was real sad, man. I didn't plan on going back. I didn't think I'd ever go back. Everybody that leaves jails always says when you see them make bail, when I'm out of here, I'm never coming back, right? And just like John, man, you see, I was there for my time, right? So I went in when I was 22. I got out when I was 24, right? So in my time, just like John, bro, you see it all the time. They go, oh, I'm never coming back, boom. A week, bro. I've seen people come back 3 days later. I was one of the persons that came back 3 days later, but I remember I got out on a Friday, and I was back on Monday. I was sad. Yeah, but the recidivism, man, I just can't put my finger on what it is, but it's hard. So being released, right? Especially for me, I was released on bail. I didn't even I wasn't sentenced or anything like that, right? So I was released on bail, and just getting out. Especially, I was on a bracelet, so I got out. So I'm on bail and I'm on a bracelet, right? So when you talk about recidivism and trying to reintegrate back into the community, there's already when people get out, you have that mindset when you get out, like, yeah, I want to do good, I want to do something, but then when you get out to the real world, then that's when everything hits you, like, oh shoot, I'm on probation. I got this bracelet on my ankle. I got a felony. So it's like, what am I good? There's not too many people out here that's willing to give chances to people like me when I was first released. So then it's like, okay, well, and you try for a little bit, but then it gets exhausting. You're hearing no after no after no, closed door after closed door. Oh, your record, you can't do this. Oh, you on a bracelet, you can't go here, you can't. So it's like, bro, so what am I? So all right, so you tell me, what am I supposed to do then?
I feel you, man. So Sheriff Lew, man, I know you know all this. What Gabe is telling you, we not here like telling you something you don't know. And so I wanted one of the questions we wanted, like, as you said, unique for you. What perspective and goals do you think that your team brings unique to this? And then in regards to some of this conversation that Gabe's talking, it's a big thing to turn. But what accomplishments are you proud of right now that are helping toward bridge that kind of these challenges that Gabe's talking about?
Yeah, no, Gabe, you're spot on. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, one of the most challenging things is people who get released being able to get a job, which is really the greatest social program in the world. And there's a lot of barriers to that. And I think it's important that we break down those barriers, both as, for example, I was a supporter of courier reform. I think, I was a supporter of people would have licenses suspended for non-driving offenses. So when they get they get released from incarceration, they want to get a job, but they don't have a license. How they get, these are nonsensical walls we're putting up for people to succeed upon release. We have to deal with those. But back to your original question, I guess I'd say that if I can just tell a story about it, because it really hits me home. If you had to ask me, like, probably what this job means to me, and I'll tell you what it is. And I guess it started when I got elected sheriff, and I went to visit not all, I visited a few of the handpicked sheriffs that I thought were doing special work. I was elected, they call it sheriff-elect, but I wasn't sworn in yet. So I went to visit him, and I remember one particular sheriff I met with in Essex County, and I said to him, I'm a big guy, and I'm not too fearful. I've spent a lot of time in, rough areas. I do. I love it. I travel. I never been too fearful. I hitchhiked around this country one time. We can talk about that a whole show.
He told me that story.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
We'll talk about that, but because I'm old enough, you 51, John, God bless you, man. I hit my 6th decade, so let's just say that sounds like pretty sweet to me. But I'll tell you what the sheriff said to me. I said, any concerns when you're out there? You're the sheriff, you're out in the community, any problems? He's like, Sheriff, there's going to be no problems. He goes, anybody's not succeeding out there is going to avoid you. They're not proud of themselves. They want to avoid themselves. The people going to come up to you are the ones who are succeeding, and they're proud of the work they did, and never were their truer words spoken. And I tell this story a lot because I cannot tell you how many people. Now, we've implemented, I could talk for hours about programming and things, and we get better. We're not there yet, but we've done a lot of work. But the ultimate compliment, and I tell it, I told it this week, we had a STOP graduation, which is a substance treatment program graduation, yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I said to the group when they graduated, I go to everyone, I hand them their graduation certificates these guys received. And I tell them, I said, I used to say to you guys, every graduation, I'd say, when you get out of here, I never want to see you again. And everybody laughed. They knew what I meant, right. Which was, do well. But I never say that anymore. I say to them, I tell you what, I said, when I do want to see you is out there in the community when you come up to me and tell me how good you're doing, because it happens more than you would believe. Yeah. People will come up to me anywhere I go, whether it be in Worcester, Fitchburg, Holden, Southbridge, Spencer, it doesn't matter. I can walk anywhere, anytime, into any building, and there'll be someone come up to me. And honestly, I don't remember everybody, but they'll say, you remember me, Sheriff? I was at that anger management graduation, or I was in that program. And sometimes I do remember, and sometimes I don't. But I always hear the story, and it's like, I want to thank you. I said, how you doing? And you can tell when you look in someone's eyes when nobody bullshits you. They don't. They're not going to come up to you and tell you lies. They don't. Right. So they come up to you, and they look at you in the eye and say, I'm doing great, Sheriff. I got a family. I got a job. I'm supporting them. I'm doing great. I've been sober 11 months, whatever. That's what makes it all worthwhile. So I guess to ask you, what I'm most proud of, and Johnny, you can feel free to comment. You don't work there anymore, so you can comment any way you want. But I can tell you, I believe that when I ran for that job, it had a long history of being known for nothing but patronage and politics. And I ran against the system. I didn't know anybody there. I ran against them. I was the first sheriff to never take a campaign contribution from anyone who works there or a spouse. I promised the people of Worcester County it would be about professionalism and public safety. We're going to take any names off the vehicles. We're going to raise the hiring standards. It's just serious work. We need the best people we can find. So if you come in and you do a job well, you're going to be rewarded. If you're not doing a job, you're going to be held accountable. I don't owe you anything. Yeah. And that meant nobody, including Johnny. And he flourished because he did his job very well. So we didn't know each other. Nope. So, my only point was that, I guess, is my ultimate pride of being sheriff. It's the greatest job I've ever had in my life. I've never enjoyed anything more. I love this community. I grew up here. I grew up in a 3-decker in Worcester. My grandparents, were from Holden and Spencer. My other side came from the rural hills of Greece and Albania and worked in factories. And I'm a Worcester County guy. And I just can't believe I can sit here with you guys after being Worcester County Sheriff for 11 and a half years and be part of this conversation and trying to help solve our problems, which are there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so complex. And in so many facets, even hear you talk about, Lew, where you had to think about how do I come in and implement some of these things and put them in place to be able to support. I think one of the things for me that is really, really hard in what you're saying, let me back. One of the first things, I'll say this, tremendous change of phrase. Right, because we talk here a lot about speaking from an asset base versus a deficit, and so even like saying I never want to see you again, unintentionally it's like you're putting it, you might come back versus hey, when I do want to see you. And so even cognitively, like just that conversation can shift the way someone. So kudos to you, even kind of recognizing your own personal growth and doing that. That's something that we're always trying to do here when talking with our guys and speak from that type of perspective as well. But also, what resonates and hard for me, and I think, for me especially in this role, is like I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone that comes in touch with LL to do the best they can, right? and I have a vision for what that person can do. The first time I meet them, I have a vision from where they can go. And what's hard for me is that I'm not in control of that. And a lot of them aren't going to get to where I can see or would hope for them to be.
And you know what's even could be even more frustrating, and I'm sure with your role you probably experienced this also, right? But so Ron is the ED, right? So he's in charge of hiring people, right? So if that's his goal, then he has to be selective on who he hires so that the people that come on have the same vision as him, right? To carry out his vision and what he wants for the organization, right? So in saying that, with the sheriff, the sheriff's office and with the COs in jail, right? So hearing you talk, I can hear that you really want good for these guys and you don't want them to come back and you want to treat these guys with respect when you see them and that. But so just gently, this is gently. When I was in there, the COs that are in there really do not treat inmates, I think, in the way that you would like if you was to see it.
Now, can I ask you, Gabe? Look, this is what we're here for, and I'm sure that does happen, no question. So, can you give me when were you there? Like, give me the times you were there.
2017, I went in.
Okay. How long were you there for?
Yeah, so I was there till like the end of 2018.
Okay. And did you find that to be a universal experience you had, or did you find it just a few people that were like didn't have the vision maybe you thought they should have?
No, it was most. It was most people. The only out of our whole block, I don't know how many people's in the block, but it got the upper tier, lower tier. I don't know, 100 people, whatever, whoever is in the block. But I'm not going. I'll say this: there, out of all the COs that come in and out, first shift, second shift, third shift, the majority of the people on the block, and I was on L block and I was on H block. So between those two blocks, I know there was only about, I would say, 2, maybe 3 COs that everybody was cool and did a really, really, really great job in connecting with the guys and being real cool. And, you just see people like in distress banging on their windows, like trying to get officers' attention. And there was a few COs that are start, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? But, the rest of the COs is just like, man, get out of here, bro. Stop banging on the door, bro. I'm not coming to you. Like, I don't want to hear from you. Just stop talking to me. Just real, like, rude. And, people be hungry, starving and stuff like that, trying to get some food. COs just be like, yo, bro, I don't care, bro. You're in jail. This is what it is. I don't care. And, yeah, I just think, because I heard you say that one of your things is hiring the level of the standards, level of people coming in. So I just want to speak a little bit on that because and I don't discredit any, because there's some really great officers, and I know you got your job going on. You can't be everywhere at once. But I think reevaluating the COs in the Worcester County Jail would be very beneficial to how inmates, right? Because that transpires too. When you got good COs, I'm sure John, like you, John, that they have relationship with. So when you get on the unit's nice and calm. The unit, the problems might come, but it's not as frequently, right? But when you got these asshole COs, that just riles up the block. Everybody like, like F this dude. Like, I ain't trying to do nothing. Follow no, like, it just.
I think you're speaking to like a very tense environment from all people involved. You got folks that are dealing with incarceration, like it is what it is. And then you got CO, like the environment in there. Not to discredit anything you're saying, I want to give you a chance to respond, Lew. But I think like what you're speaking to for our listeners that we're all aware of that they aren't is that it is a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? That environment is just it's tense all the time. It's people are at like, if you think about stress, if you think about stress, right? Like on a 1 to 10 scale, my guess is everybody from is kind of walking around at like a 8, 9 always. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't take much to go to a 10. I mean, we just started going in. We're partnering with the sheriff on this reentry grant. And look, me personally, I can viscerally feel it. Like I have a volunteer thing. I'm gonna meet with folks and I'm gonna leave, right? But as soon as that thing closed behind me, I'm still like, I feel it. I feel it. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll get more. You know, John 28. He probably was just like, whatever. But like, and so that it's just to help. Can you help like our listeners?
Oh yeah.
Not specifically the Gabe situation, but like the broad conversation. I think here is just how high stress that entire environment is. Not to discredit what you're saying.
Yeah, no, for sure.
At all.
Yeah, it is. It's a hostile.
But from like both sides, right? Like, and so if we're all operating at like a 8, 9, a look or anything is going to make like boom. So I'll give you a chance.
Well, absolutely, and I appreciate it. And John, I'll go first, but I would like to get your impression. I mean, you were there during this period of time, and feel free. And he's not there anymore, so he can speak freely, and I look forward to his words. I guess I just like to maybe frame it in the bigger context before John could address that issue.
Sure, yeah.
And I heard it loud and clear, and I will only tell you what I can tell you, and that is that it absolutely is a tough, stressful environment for people. That's a lot of reason why when I came in, the first thing I wanted to do was change the hiring standards. Now, the reason is not that people with lower standards can't be great correctional officers, but I had to send a signal to the people in this community that elected me. It wasn't business as usual. It wasn't a dumping ground for somebody's nephew who couldn't get a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
So my standards were essentially you had to have 2 years associate's degree and or served your country.
Right.
And then all the other things. You had to pass the physical test. And we even put in, for the first time ever in Worcester County, a psychological profile to make sure that the right people were entering corrections.
Yeah.
Because as Gabe said, it's a tough environment. You get the wrong people in there, you got one bad problem, one person, you got one big problem.
Yeah.
So I've tried as hard as we could to cherry pick the best people because exactly what you just said. And I'll put it very, very bluntly. Any idiot can escalate a situation. Any
Facts.
idiot. You're in jail. You got an inmate in a cell. He needs some help. He's got a problem, or he's upset about something. Any idiot can turn that into a problem.
Yeah.
What we want to teach people and what our training program works to do is to learn. You got to find the right people, the right mentality to de-escalate a situation. I'll give you an example. We've all been in a bar room, maybe longer ago than shorter ago.
I hear you.
Somebody it's in your face. All you have to, I've seen it a million. All I have to do is drop the F-bomb on them, and we're going at it.
Right.
But yeah, I want to be smarter than that.
Right. I
want to diffuse the situation. You know. So that's what we've tried to do here. And I will mention one other point to Gabe. You didn't put it on this point exactly, but I really want to mention it today. I believe in a diversified workforce. I think it's critically important. We have a diversity in we got to reflect the people. I'm going to say it's very challenging to hire people.
Yeah.
I just want you to know.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm keenly aware of. I'm working on, but I'll just give you an example, especially today with law enforcement. I'm meaning correctional staff, but it applies across our board, whether it be educators, substance abuse. We don't pay the highest scale to start with. And it's just challenging. I think our current class for correctional officers, we need about 25 people in our class. We don't want to take the wrong people because that's worse than nobody.
Right.
So we're down to 10.
So if I understood right, the goal is try to get 25, but 10 is what.
That's all we can get. We had 12 and 2 have dropped out. And I'll tell you one last thing too, Gabe. This is important for you to understand. And I'm looking you guys in the eye. You know I'm being straight with you here. I interview every single person before I hire them. So over the years, it's been hundreds. And by the way, there's been a lot of changes since you were there last. You know, you got to remember, when you came in, I'd been there 5-6 years. Now it's 11, 12 years. So I always feel that a lot of the turnover has been positive, except for a few, obviously.
We lost.
You know, obviously, not all of them, but they do. But I'll tell you what I ask people, and I'm telling you on this. Ask them why, whether it be a correctional officer, substance abuse, anybody comes in. Why do you want to work here? Simple question. No right or wrong answer. Obviously, I'm looking for people who tell me, I want to help people. It's not like I want to take care of, I want bad people. No, that's not what this is about. But I'll tell you what I tell everybody. I say to them, I don't have a robe. You understand what I'm saying? I'm the sheriff. I don't have a robe. If I want a robe, I should try to be a judge. You don't have a robe either. Nobody at the House of Correction or jail has a robe on. So they've already been judged. Our job is to help those who want to help themselves. I want to be clear on that. We don't coddle people. You can't get people. If you get someone in a program, he doesn't really want to be there, but maybe he gets some good time, and he disrupts the whole thing, everybody loses. So, you know, we got to work with those who want to help themselves. And Gabe, you talked about being there and obviously how it impacted you, and you didn't want to go back. I don't think anybody does. I've met people who have been there one day. They never wanted and never did come back again. I've met people who have been there 9 times.
Right.
everybody's at a different place in their journey, and you
Right.
got to kind of catch them at the right moment where they say, I bottomed out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done, right?
Yeah.
That's where those are the people we really have to be open to find, and you need the best people to do that. So
Yeah.
that's
One of the
what we
things,
do.
before you go, Gabe, one of the things I wanted to appreciate is getting your perspective on this. I think that a lot of times people try to distill this down to a black or white. This stuff is so nuanced and gray. Like, to hear you say, like, one of my responsibilities as being elected is I have to show to the electorate that elected me what I'm performing on the platform that I said I was going to perform on, right? That's part of it. Like, so there's just so much globally going on. So I just wanted to touch on that before.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. So I was just wondering if by any chance can this ever happen or ever start to begin to be worked on. So you're talking about how you try to find the best fit for these people in the jails to help them and to understand them, right? So in my opinion, the best people to help them comes from them, right? And I know if you have a felony or recently incarcerated, whatever, you got charges like that. I know at one point I wanted to be a CO, but I can't, because I got felonies, I got things going on, I got, so I was just wondering if that's one thing that can ever be worked on, is having people like me go back and work inside the jails to try to help the guys.
Yeah, I'll answer that and tell you this. So I'll give you one example. Richie Gonzalez. I don't know if you know Pastor
Yeah,
Gonzalez.
yeah. That's a
Great
good
friend of mine. He kind of changed a lot of things with us because he came into my office real early after serving time, got out, and he said to me, I want to talk to you. I didn't know who he was. And he said, I found God in your place, and I want to turn my life around, and I'd like you to join my journey. And I couldn't be happier because he is, to me, front and central of people. So he had those type of convictions, and I have the authority as sheriff to decide. I don't set a blanket policy like, you got these charges, you'll never set foot in there again. I could. I don't. But I make individualized choices. So the answer to your question is I can't speak on whether I would hire, ex, folks for correctional, but coming back into our facility, offering assistance and help, 100% open to that message. I can talk the talk. I didn't walk the walk. You got to find people. I had a guy last week, Ed Cressy, came in. He wrote a book. He spent 20 years ago. He spent many years incarcerated. He was a methamphetamine addict. He wrote a book. He came in and talked to me about it. He talked about his life journey and where he was at. So absolutely 100%, those are the messages. I do believe this when it comes to, for substance abuse treatment, for example. I don't want to say this with a broad brush. I want to be careful, but I think some of the most effective people in substance treatment are people who've been there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just common sense. So anyway, that's what we're working on. I'm open to people coming in. I think you are the messengers that people in there need to see, but it has to be a hopeful message of I did this, I turned my life around, and this is where I'm at. That's a message we're very open to having.
John, as we're kind of getting close, man, we didn't even get to touch, man, we just talked, we didn't even get to any.
Close to what?
Close to wrapping
Close
up.
to the first quarter?
Right. We might have to do it again. I don't know what your time is like, Sheriff, but I wanted to give John a chance, to kind of chime in. John's always the silent type over in the back, just kind of sitting there. But, we've been talking a lot, man, so just want to kind of give you a chance to share your perspective, too.
Yeah, so why I've been so, doing good at what I did for 20 years there is how I treat people. So there's guys fall through the cracks in every walk of life. So what you're getting at is, how guys were treated and how different officers were. When I started, because I was a certain way, the quiet, the calm, the cool guy. So there were certain guys when I started, I saw they can do this effectively being like me, because I wasn't a rah-rah guy. I'm not the one that needed to be with the star on my chest and telling people what to do. So that was my identity, and that's who I was. So I found guys who did the job well that acted like me. So as I went through the ranks and got promoted, now I surrounded myself with people like that. So I get it. What you're saying is there's state police, there's, PDs and all that. There's people who fall through the cracks, even though what the sheriff said about all the things they do to get people in there. People still fall through there. And if you don't have an upbringing that you treat people right and all these other things, I can get into, this is who you got. So those guys who you're talking about, to me, they were brought up a certain way. Doesn't matter if they're correctional police or state trooper. That's how they were taught from their parents. To me, they weren't born like that to be, getting in this position and talk down to people like that. I have a great family, mom and dad, grandmothers who taught me how to be, and that's how I've been from day one up there. And that's why when I go out, my wife to this day, we go to the mall, we go to the grocery store. Guys come up to me, like the sheriff was saying, My wife would be like, what do you do up there? Everyone's hugging on me, want to dap me up, and I treat a person like I want to be treated.
Yeah.
And that's how I've gotten to where I'm at. And Junito, that's not on here right now, he sees that every day when we go up there on how people.
Yeah, you guys have no idea. Yo, the fact that we get to say we know John Graham when we go to the house, it's like it's unbelievable. Just like, who are you? Oh, John Graham? Oh, no. Yeah, you all right, So he definitely comes. The other thing I was gonna say too, though, interesting. You should know this too. When we first brought John on, Gabe came to talk to me. So I ain't working with that guy.
I did.
He said I'm not talking to him. He said I'm not talking to him. And I said, bro, you're the outreach director. You're gonna have to talk to that man. Like, what you mean you're not gonna talk to him? He was like, nah, I'm not. Whatever, forget that. But I think that speaks to the reality of what how he shared and we heard in his voice, his experience. But I'm happy to say that
We had a conversation. I think he didn't come in for 3 days.
I came in. I came in.
Well, no, I think But
it was just
we had a good conversation. I told him why I did what I did.
Well, no, I appreciate Gabe trusting me as the leader to encourage him to go have that conversation. Because I told him, I was like, listen, man, you just gotta go talk to him about how you feeling. You got to work. You got to figure that out. If we all gonna be on the same team, working toward the same stuff. So it's really interesting, man, to kind of all sit at the table now and just think about just the different, trajectories we've all taken to be here and having this conversation from long and short.
Yeah, and I think those conversations, like the conversation me and you have, I think those are the most powerful ones, right? Because just like, so I'm no different than the CEOs that was working in there that I'm talking about, that said, oh, treated Pete, right? Because I judged you based on my past experiences of how I was treated by, I generalized you, right? And it's the same thing with the CEOs. CEOs don't know nobody. I didn't know you personally. CEOs don't know these guys that coming in and out, personally. And they do, so the same thing they did to me, I did to you, and the same thing, but it's those conversations, man.
And and what you're talking about is not unique to a correctional facility. The fact that we generalize people because of past, that's a broad thing that we all dealing with. Man, we don't have time to unpack that, but I think our whole country is really dealing with all that right now. Like being able to generalize folks. And one of the things I highlight, and I really appreciate Sheriff Lew, you coming on, is I genuinely care about people, and I want to build relationships with people. This wasn't. I remember we talked. It wasn't like, oh, we trying to get Sheriff on here and like get him in the corner and be like, oh, bro. That's not our motive here at all. Like I said, really just kind of looking at this whole issue, but really valuing relationships, valuing people for who they are. I'm not. As we leave this podcast, one of the things, man, that I'm not gonna leave here. Honestly, when I told you we gonna pray for you, man, that's not we're not blowing smoke, man. Like that's like I lost my mom when I was young. I've been, you know what I'm saying? And so like we resonate on these things, and part of it really is being able to have these types of conversations where, as an executive director, right? I wear a lot of labels, right? But are they all who Ron is? Like, right? Like you wear a lot of labels, but is that who Lew is? Gabe, right? And so some of these labels get put on us as inmate, criminal, convict, whatever. But is that who you are, right? And is that who you? And so that's really what we're trying to highlight in the conversation, and really what the work we do at LL is helping ourselves, and then helping our participants as well, kind of understand that about each other and themselves. And I think coming all the way back about volatile situations It's the conversation I was having with my son earlier, right? There's another option, right? But if there's no one helping to teach you other options or walk you through what other options there are, how do you know to choose them, you know?
Can I add something, Ron?
No, you're going to close it out. You're going to close it out. I'm going to throw it to you, man. I told you, man, I'm the point guard. I'm going to throw it to you. I'm dumping it into the post.
It's a black hole, man. You're getting it back.
Was in respect to all those things, man, just give you a chance to respond to it. So,
yeah, no, I mean, we got maybe enough time to hear from everybody. I just wanted to mention to you, let me just frame it in a little conversation I had recently, and then maybe get back to my main point. I've been sheriff for 12 years, or this will be 12 years, and I'm running again. But I had to reassess whether I had the opportunity. I've never done a job more than 10 years of my life, so this is kind of uncharted territories for me. And I was talking to my kids about other things, and I had the intention of staying, but I thought, I was approached by other people. And my daughter said to me, Dad, why would you do anything else? She says, you love your job. And she goes, you got the best job in the world. And I said, why is that? She goes, at least for, people in public service. And she said to me, and it was really fascinating. She goes, you got a big enough job, you can change a lot of people's lives. And I said,
wow.
Thank you. But she goes, but it's small enough you can actually know the lives you change,
Wow. And
I guess where I'm going with that is, it's not me. It's this community. It's the House of Correction. It's the people like you, Ron, and Legendary Legacies, and the people on this table. I got to tell you, from my heart, I'm blessed. I think life is enriched by two things: your family and your friends and your community. I can't imagine a better job than what I got, where I get to work with people like you, Johnny, and everybody here to help make our community a better place. And I'm just one piece in a puzzle, but I can't tell you. There were probably, I'll give you a rough estimate, I don't know, maybe there's 20 people I knew in Worcester County before I became sheriff that were doing God's work every day, and I knew them, and I thought it was amazing. And then I became sheriff. I can tell you there's probably hundreds of them I've met doing God's work, whether it be in Southbridge at a church or a homeless shelter in Spencer or in Fitchburg, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get to know these people, work with them, help solve problems. And it ain't coming in, and I'll leave you with this from sheriff. I'm very proud of this thing and why I love my job. I love the fact that I can walk in as a sheriff, and I'm not coming in there as a Republican or a Democrat or as a politician. I hope my legacy will be that I could walk into anywhere in Worcester County and people would see me as someone who wants to help them. And if I have a job that allows me into that room, I'm blessed beyond words. So to be here with you guys, I just want you to know how much it means to me. Like, Ron, you're amazing. I love you, my friend. I mean it. And the work you're doing, I am so amazed at what you do, and that we have a friendship over what we're doing together. Unbelievable.
I don't think there's anything else to say after that. Sorry, John. But we'll go out on those words. We appreciate you, Sheriff Lew. Maybe we'll have to do it again down the road. It was such a good dialogue, Gabe. I appreciate you being able to kind of go back through and step in. I know that's not easy to kind of revisit some of those difficult times. And John, you not always wanting to be on the air, but being here and sharing your thoughts, man, around this conversation. And so, listeners, make sure that you continue to tune in. We appreciate our sponsors, MVP Barbershop over on Grafton Street. G, we miss you. June, you wasn't on this time. We love you still, brother. And remember, until next time, remember, always be legendary.